Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I just wanted to quickly wrap up February, kind of tell you guys all the books that I read, give you guys my final thoughts on them before we head into March. So I was actually able to read 7 books this month, which I think is a personal best for me in 1 month. It's kind of hard to say that because they were shorter books. I read a lot of romances, which are about, 200, 300, 400 pages, where a lot of the fantasy books I read are like 600, 700 pages. So obviously it's a lot harder to read a lot of those books where these books are shorter. So I kind of flew through a lot of them. But again, I'm proud of myself because I was able to read 7 books this month. So I want to just quickly go over all of them, give you guys my final thoughts, let you guys know if I'd recommend them. So let's jump right in. Also, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder. Please like this video. Please subscribe if you're not already because it really supports my channel. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, so the first book I read this month was The Heiress Gets a Duke by Harper St. George, which is a historical romance. And honestly, I loved this book. It was one of my favorite historical romances. I thought it was fun. I thought it was fast-paced. I thought it was steamy, but not over the top. Just honestly, all around 5 out of 5. Just thought it was really good. We follow our main character, August, and she is an American heiress. And she is the older sister in her family, and she is very progressive. She's like, I don't want to get married. I want to, kind of run the family business one day. And that's kind of like her aspiration. So she doesn't kind of want to be like held back by a man. However, her family is kind of like on the up and coming. They're kind of like new money, if you will. So when a duke is looking for a wife, they offer up the younger sister as kind of like, here's our daughter, you can have our money and give us your title, essentially, because they have the money but they don't have the status. However, August is like, no, you are not marrying off my younger sister like for status. Like, that's so messed up. Like, it's not gonna happen. But when she tries to kind of like meddle in this marriage, the duke kind of is like, you're like kind of spunky and like, maybe I want you as a bride instead of your younger sister. It kind of sounds messed up, and honestly it kind of is a little bit, but it kind of plays out from there, and it's really good. Yeah, again, one of my favorite historical romances. I talk about it a little bit more in my Bridgerton video, so if you want a little bit more about the book, I'll link that video down below. But yeah, 5 out of 5. If you're looking for a good historical romance, I definitely recommend The Heiress Gets a Duke. Okay, the next book that I read this month was Wallbanger by Clayton, and this is a contemporary romance. And this is probably my least favorite book of the month. I just don't love contemporary romances, and I read this book because I want to kind of like expose myself to the genre more because I haven't read too many, so it's like kind of unfair for me to be like, well, I don't like this genre when I've only read a handful of books. But after reading this book, it kind of just like reinforced why I don't really love contemporary romance. Like, I love historical romance because I love the like historical aspects, and they wear like the gowns and they go to balls and they're like Miss Bridgerton and blah blah blah, and it's like, it's like fun, and it's like kind of takes you out of reality and brings you back to like this like perfect, not actually perfect time. Sorry about the noise, that's really annoying. But yeah, so this book being a contemporary romance, it took place in like contemporary California. We follow our main character, Caroline, and she's moving into like this new fancy apartment in San Francisco, I believe. And she's all excited and she's like, this is so beautiful, I'm so excited. And then kind of the first night when she goes to bed, she hears her neighbor kind of thumping the wall with his partner, so it's like, she's like, oh my god, that's so loud, and my neighbor is like doing his thing over there, and I can hear every single like noise, sound, thump, all of it. And so it's like kind of ruins this new perfect apartment for her. And then she kind of meets the guy, and you can kind of get it from there. So like the story is like a little bit cheesy, but it's not bad. I don't know, like just something about it, like the way they were talking, it's like supposed to be contemporary romance, but nobody talks like that. They're like, hey you, blah blah blah, and it's like, like nobody talks like that. But like in historical romance, when they're like Miss Bridgerton, like nobody talks like that now, but it's not supposed to take place now, it's supposed to take place then when they did talk like that. So I don't know, like it just doesn't like connect with me for whatever reason. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend this book, just to be honest, and I don't like saying that because, just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you won't like it. So again, if you're a contemporary romance fan and you like some steam, if you like some steam, maybe try out this book. But like, as far as just romance goes, there's other books that I would recommend over this book for sure. Okay, so the next book that I read this month was In Bed with a Highlander by Maya Banks, and this is the first book in her McCabe trilogy. And in this book, we follow our two main characters, Ewan McCabe and Mayrin, and he is like the laird of the clan in Scotland, and she is the like illegitimate daughter of one of the Scottish kings. And basically his like clan is kind of really struggling. They don't have a lot of money. They're kind of, you know, living in like this like rundown like castle or whatever you want, and her being the illegitimate heir of a king or illegitimate daughter of a king, she comes with a huge dowry, right? So people are, you know, other lairds are basically searching for her in order to marry her, father her children, and collect her dowry. You know, circumstances happen, and she kind of shows up at Ewan McCain's like castle or land, and he learns who she is, and she comes with this dowry. He essentially forces her to marry him and tries to impregnate her so that he can collect her dowry, which can only be released when she has a child. So, you know, reading that, it kind of sounds like a little bit sketchy. It's not, you know, there's not really any rape or anything like that. I mean, I would say trigger warnings if that stuff really triggers you, but it's not really like aggressive like assault the way it is in like Outlander, where it's like really like hard to read. Like, it's not that harsh, but that's kind of the premise of the book. So I give this book a 4 out of 5, and like that sounds like a high rating, but for me it's kind of like a middle ground. I really don't rate things below a 3. So 3 is like, I don't really love it, I wouldn't recommend it. 4 is like, I liked it, I would recommend it, but it's not my favorite book. And 5 is like, I loved it, definitely read it, like 100%. So for me, this book is like, it's good. It's not my favorite book, but it's definitely not my least favorite book. I liked that it was fast paced. I liked the steam, you know, when it was a little bit more, both sides were contributing. But yeah, I just kind of felt like it was a little bit rushed, and it kind of felt almost too fast paced at times. You know, things were happening and we're like, bam, bam, bam. And I'm like, whoa, like, how do we even get here? Like, maybe slow it down a little bit, which is like weird because I love fast paced books, but like, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good, but it's just not my favorite historical romance. So I would recommend it, especially if you like steamy books. But there's definitely other historical romances that I would recommend over it, like The Heiress Gets a Duke, and like some of the other books that, again, I talked about in my Bridgerton video, which again is linked down below. Okay, so the next book that I read is probably my favorite book of the month, and that is Edenbrook by Julianne Donaldson. And this is another historical romance, and I just thought this book was so good. Like, it's just so sweet. Like, you genuinely are rooting for the characters to like be happy, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know, it's just so good. So in this book, we follow our main character, Marianne, and she basically hates the city life. She wants nothing to do with it. So when her sister Cicely invites her to Edenbrook to visit kind of like her host family, I guess you could say, Marianne jumps at it. She's like, yes, yes, please. But on her way there, her carriage is attacked by like a highwayman. So she's like, you know, held at gunpoint and blah, 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 shot, and, you know, all this blah, blah, blah kind of happens. So it forces her to stop at an inn on her way there. And while she's at this inn, she meets this like mysterious stranger who comes back later, and that rhymes, but I didn't mean to. Anyway, so good, so cute, and it is like that's not really steamy at all, to be honest, but that doesn't take away from the romance. Like, it's just so good. If you want a historical romance book that's not steamy, because I know a lot of them actually tend to be on the steamier side, but this one is just like so sweet, like innocent. Like, the banter between our characters is so good. They're like flirtatious, but they like, but it's not proper, and I don't know, it's just so good. I would highly recommend it. Like, top of the line historical romance for me. And actually, because I liked Edenbrook so much, I actually read another book by Julianne Donaldson, which is Blackmore. And I didn't quite like this one as much, but I still give it a 5 out of 5. It's still really good, and it is also on the softer side, which, like, again, it's just so sweet. And you just like, she's really good at writing like characters that you just love, that you just like want to root for. Like, I don't even know why. Like, you just like really get invested in their story. And in this book, we follow our main character, Kate, and she is again kind of like that progressive girl who doesn't want to get married, wants to travel, kind of like live her own life and not be trapped in the marriage with a man. So she's like, I'm not going to do that. That's not for me. I'm not getting married. And her mom, who's like super controlling and super like involved and like selfish, who wants to kind of like marry her and her sisters off to like, you know, better, higher ranked men to like heighten the status of their family, is like, no, like you're not just gonna not marry and think that's okay. And when Kate's friend Henry invites her out to like his like country house, Blackmore, her mom is like, you can go only if you promise to like secure proposals from the other men that are going to be there. And if you don't do that, then you can't go visit your aunt in like India after like you're supposed to. So basically Kate is like, well, I don't really have a choice. I have to go and try to secure these proposals so I can go to India, because if I don't go and try to do it, then I'm just going to have to be here anyway. So she accepts this deal, and it's kind of like a lose-lose situation, right? Like, how is she supposed to go to this place for like a week or whatever and get 3 different guys to propose to her? And that's all I'm gonna say about it, because I don't want to give any more away, but it's really good. The banter is great. The whole just like setting of the story is great. Kate's a really interesting main character, and again, like, it's a very soft romance, so if you don't like too much steam, I highly recommend this book. Okay, and another book that I read this month is The Viscount Who Loves Me by Julianne Quinn, which is the second book in the Bridgerton series. And I have not read the first book, but I watched the show and I loved it so much that I like needed to just like go back into this like whole situation. So I picked up the second book, and I didn't love it, and that's like hard for me to say. And like, I kind of now wish I read the first book so I could like compare it to the show and be like, oh, the show changed it in this and this way, and I really liked that, whereas like the book kind of just fell short a little bit. And I hope that they do better in the show, which I honestly think they will. Like, the first season was just too good for me to like lose faith in them, I guess you could say. But the second book, I just felt just wasn't quite at that level. Like, I loved how in the show we had a lot of different stories going on, right? So obviously Daphne and Simon were like our main like love story, right? But then you had like Colin and Marina, you had like Anthony and Sienna, like you had like these little background things going on that like just made the story more well-rounded. You got to learn more about the Bridgerton family at large, whereas in this book it really only focused on Anthony and like his love story. So I hope in the show they give us like him as the main, but we still have Daphne and Simon around. Like, we still learn more about like Colin or like, you know, Eloise and whoever, you know what I mean? So like for me, like not including the siblings as much in the book as they did in the show made the book not as good, if that makes sense. But anyway, in this book we follow our main character Anthony, who is the eldest son in the Bridgerton family, and it's kind of like his love story. So he basically decides, you know, I'm 28, 29, almost 30, I need to marry, it's time, like I'm the Viscount, I need to kind of take on that responsibility, find a wife, produce an heir, and kind of carry out the Bridgerton name, right? Because he's the firstborn son. So he kind of picks this random girl, if you will, from like the society, from the ton, if you will, and he's like, I'm just gonna marry her, like she's the most eligible bachelorette here, so I'm just gonna like choose her, she's gonna say yes because I'm a Bridgerton, and like that's that. But the girl's sister, Kate, is like, you think you're just gonna marry my sister and like you're just a complete rake and like you think you could just have her? Like, think again, like you need to earn her, like you need to deserve her, like she's better than you, like earn her. But when she kind of steps in, Anthony's like, so the sister. So that's super similar to the Arias gets a Duke that I talked about earlier, and they seem a little bit similar, but obviously the books are pretty different when you actually read them. They just kind of have that similarity of like the meddlesome sister and then, you know, the switcheroo, if you will. But yeah, so I don't know, I just felt like the book was kind of cheesy, and like a lot of historical romances are like, they're like, we're taking a walk and we're just falling in love and we're waltzing and it's beautiful and we fall in love in like 5 seconds, right? But I don't know, like I just kind of like was too cheesy, and like they took the dog on a walk and the dog like fell off the leash, and then like somebody fell in the water, and it's just like I don't know, like it also could just be one of those things where like I loved the show so much, and so I expected so much from the book that like it was kind of unfair, and like I hyped it up so much in my head that it just fell short, which like happens a lot to me with books where I like hype them up so much and then they're just never gonna live up to that hype. So it could be something like that, but I don't know. I don't know if I would recommend it. Part of me is like, yes, just because like it's just a fun book, but part of me is like, maybe just wait for the show to come out and like try some different historical romance books, like I don't know, the ones I've talked about before, and like if you run out of historical romances then read that one. That's like really mean. But on a side note, the theme in this book, that was really good. Just the plot kind of fell short for me, but do with that what you will, I guess. Okay, and the last book that I read in February was A Lady's Formula for Love by Elizabeth Everett, and this is another historical romance because I was just on a historical romance grind for the month of February. And another book that I thought was really, really good, and this was actually a debut novel from this author. So the fact that this was her first book and it was this good, like props to you, like that's really impressive. I thought it was really good, and it was steamy as shit, like holy lord, like, but like a good steam. It wasn't like vulgar where you're just like, ooh, I don't really want to read that, like but like it just like had a lot of steamy scenes, you know what I mean? Like I thought it was really good. And before I go into kind of like a quick summary of it, something that I really liked about this book was that our characters were a little bit older. So something that's like super common with historical romances is our main character, especially the girl, is super young. She's like 16, 17, like maybe like 21 if she's like on the older side, and it's like, I'm gonna be a spinster the rest of my life because nobody wants me because I'm like not 12, and then she falls in love, right? But like in this book, our main character, Lady Violet, was already 30. She is a widow because she married someone that was older and he unfortunately died young. And then our main male character, Arthur, is 40, and he's kind of, you know, he was like in the army and all this stuff while he's a little bit older. So I just really appreciated that our characters were like just a little bit more mature. They had a little bit more life experience. Personally, for me, it's a little bit more relatable when our character is 30 and not 16. So like I just really like that. I thought that was a little bit different, and it's not just like, you know, our 16-year-old girl falling in love and losing her virginity and like all this different stuff. It's more of like this older woman who's already kind of had that story, and then her husband died, so now she's kind of doing it again, but not really, but from this older perspective where like it's just a completely different like lens, right? So I just thought that was really interesting and just a slightly different take on the whole like love situation of a historical romance. But to just give you a quick summary, we have our two main characters, as I said, Lady Violet and Arthur, and she is kind of this like scientist, like awkward, quirky woman who like doesn't really have any like care about like the society, and she doesn't really want to fit in and like go to the gatherings and all the other things that are happening in society. She just kind of wants to like do her thing and do her experiments and whatnot. And because of that, she started this like secret science society where women from, you know, around the town can come and like do their experiments and, you know, play with all these different things that they're not allowed to basically do in society because it's not like okay for women to like be scientists. So she kind of has formed the society for women like her to come and kind of like live out their passion. However, Lady Violet is working on this formula that gets the attention of like these criminals. So her stepson hires Arthur, who is kind of like her bodyguard. So he comes to basically protect Lady Violet, and he is kind of like a soldier. He was in the army. He's kind of been like a bodyguard person for years, and he knows Lady Violet's stepson because they were in the army together. So her stepson hires him and is like, please protect my stepmother, you know, she's working on this thing, people are trying to basically kill her or hurt her or whatever, and she needs protection. So Arthur comes in and he is protecting Lady Violet, and then that protection turns into a little something more, and that's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to ruin anything, even though you can kind of guess what happens. But so good, so fun. I love how she's a scientist. You you know, just adds a different layer, another deeper layer to her. Again, how she's older. I just think this is a slightly different take on, like, you know, traditional historical romance that just really elevates the book for me. And yeah, I really don't have anything bad to say about it. The steaminess, so good. The characters, so good. Like, it's fast paced. It's not that long. Like, and especially that it's her first book. Like I really don't have anything but good things to say about it. So I definitely recommend A Lady's Formula for Love by Elizabeth Everett. So yeah, that is all I have for today. Hope you guys liked this video, and I'll be talking about the books that I plan on reading in March in my next video. But quick, you know, tidbit from that. I have started A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Oh my god. Like, I mean, I knew it was gonna be good because she wouldn't let me down like that, but like, it's so good. And the steam, and I heard that this was her like steamiest book yet, and like, it just really sinks in when you read it for yourself. If you thought A Court of Mist and Fury was steamy, like, you haven't seen nothing yet from Sarah J. Maas. Like, people asked for steam and she freaking delivered. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. I will talk about it more in my next video and probably for like videos to come because I love Sarah J. Maas. But yeah, that is all I have for today. So please like this video. Please subscribe if you're not already because it really supports my channel. And as always, I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye!